Today, we're talking about every single form and major power-up of Piccolo. We're tracking his entire progress, right from his start as the reincarnation of the Demon King Piccolo back in OG Dragon Ball, all the way to his latest, kind of awesome orange transformation in the Dragon Ball Super superhero arc. From a guy literally spawning from an egg, to the point where Shenron himself is handing him insane power-ups and forms. These are all of Piccolo's forms in Dragon Ball. You see, Piccolo literally spawned from an egg after getting penetrated by Goku. Hold on, that didn't come out right. What I mean is more like, after Goku used his penetrate attack on Demon King Piccolo, the one where he launches himself up with a Kamehameha and blasts through his chest with a punch, King Piccolo's final act was to spit out an egg. So form number 1, Baby Piccolo. That egg that we mentioned allowed Demon King Piccolo to reincarnate as Piccolo Jr. This newborn Piccolo remembers all of King Piccolo's memories and techniques. Plus, right from the jump, he's locked in on his goal of killing Goku and realizing his parents' dream of taking over the world. Now, this is important because some Dragon Ball fans think Piccolo Jr. and Demon King Piccolo are the same person. And while that's not exactly wrong, I mean, they are physically the same person in the eyes of Namekian biology, but Piccolo is a new being who thinks of King Piccolo as his parent and not as his previous self. Piccolo Jr. and Demon King Piccolo differ in identity, mindset, and how they develop after the moment of reincarnation, even though Piccolo Jr. inherits the memories and intentions of his predecessor. Demon King Piccolo is the corrupted half of Kami, created when Kami expelled the negative parts of himself. That act produced a being whose nature was warped from the very start. His goals centered on domination and destruction, and he showed no inclination toward growth or reconsideration. His personality remained fixed, and his actions followed directly from the imbalance created by the split. Piccolo Jr., although born from Demon King Piccolo's final egg, is a new individual who begins life with inherited resentment, but without the same entrenched corruption. He initially carries his predecessor's hostility, especially toward Goku, but he's not limited to that path. As he interacts with the world, Piccolo Jr. develops independent judgment and gradually moves away from the single-minded destructiveness that defined the Demon King. Over time, he becomes more analytical, pragmatic, and capable of cooperation. His later fusion with Kami restores the balance lost in their original separation, reinforcing that he ultimately becomes a different person from the being who created him. Which brings us to form number 2, Base Adult. We see this version during the 23rd World Martial Arts Tournament. It's only been 3 years since he came out of the egg, and the glow-up is honestly crazy. He's also stronger than how strong King Piccolo was in his prime. For example, he easily beats Krillin in the first round, and then also beats a martial artist named Shen, who, by the way, was possessed by Kami himself. What's more, he won these 2 fights without ever taking off his weights. This also becomes the perfect aura farming setup in anime history, because it doesn't matter how strong the opponent is, you know that Piccolo is going to try to aura farm in the best way possible by taking off those weights. And when they come off, then things are about to go down. And as you know, this happens in the final round where he is, of course, fighting Goku, and both of them take off their clothes. Alright, coming back to Goku versus Piccolo, the moment this fight heats up, we get another Piccolo form, which brings us to form number 3, Great Namekian. This form features an increase in size, and while this increases his weight, which naturally makes his attacks hit harder and heavier, it doesn't actually grant him any increase in strength or ki. This is not like the Great Ape form of the Saiyans, which gives them a 10 times increase in power level, for example. It just serves for a bit of a power boost in physical attacks. And what do you know? Piccolo's next form is him increasing his size even further. Form number 4, Super Giant form, where he becomes so big that he can't even fit on the arena. I mean, in the manga, the World Tournament announcer compared his size to that of a mountain, while in the anime, the same guy compares him to a volcano. The point is, both a mountain and a volcano are ridiculous in size, just like the Great Namekian Piccolo here, and he weighed so much that he was able to crush Goku with a single leg. Now, even though giant forms are cool, Piccolo's real trump card has always been technique over size, and that's what brings us to his most iconic move, becoming a form of its own. Form number 5, Special Beam Cannon Piccolo. This has always been absurdly overpowered. I mean, while Piccolo's first Special Beam Cannon aimed at Raditz is a miss, his second Special Beam Cannon kills both Goku and Raditz in one blow. The Special Beam Cannon is Piccolo's signature technique. Piccolo concentrates nearly all of his ki into a single piercing attack, temporarily pushing his attack power far beyond his normal combat level. Unlike most beam attacks, it pierces instead of explodes. It drills through defenses rather than overpowering them. Armor armor, durability, and even regeneration are less effective. That's why it killed Raditz, who was far stronger than Piccolo, and it remains relevant even as power levels skyrocket. Through the series, there were several variants, like Light Grenade plus SBC setups or Beast Era charged versions, which made Piccolo keep up with the power scaling. Now, these were just 5 of his forms, and we're only getting started, as Piccolo's most impressive forms and power-ups are just ahead. Let's keep going, because it's only gonna get better from here. Form number 6, Super Namekian, aka First Fusion Form. After his training at King Kai's planet, Piccolo is revived on planet Namek by Gohan and the others, and he finds a fellow Namekian named Nail on the verge of death. Nail's power level during the Frieza saga is officially stated as 42,000, making him the strongest Namekian at the time, capable of rivaling the Ginyu Force members like Recoome, Birder, and Jace, but still vastly outmatched by Frieza's base form of 530,000. This immense power allows him significant regenerative abilities, though each regeneration slightly decreases his strength. Nail, being on the verge of death, convinces Piccolo to merge with him in order to defeat Frieza. Piccolo goes through with the fusion, and let me tell you, Piccolo does indeed become insanely more powerful after this form, but how strong exactly are we talking? Piccolo becomes able to fight against Frieza's second form evenly, and even gets an upper hand when he takes off his weights. While no official multiplier exists, scaling suggests that Piccolo becomes at least tens of times stronger, commonly estimated between 20 and 50 times stronger, possibly even higher. The jump is so large that Piccolo goes from non-factor to one of the strongest beings we know of at that moment. And while we know that Frieza's third form does beat him up, let me point out that according to Nail himself, if Piccolo had fused with him while he was whole, as in Piccolo himself was already one with Kami, they would have been able to beat Frieza. Which is true because, well, just check his next form. Piccolo's 7th form is the one where he fuses with Kami and becomes a true, complete Super Namekian. After seeing just how overpowered the androids are, Piccolo visits Kami, and while at first Kami is not so sure, when he senses Cell's arrival from the future, he realizes that they literally have no other options. Piccolo becomes one with Kami and achieves the Super Namekian form, and for some time, he becomes the strongest Z-Fighter. He aura farms on the newly arrived imperfect Cell, and he's basically as strong as Android 17. And again, keep in mind that all of this was back when Android 18, who's a little bit weaker than 17, completely humiliated Vegeta in a way that was not any worse than what Frieza did to him. So Piccolo being able to fight on par with Android 17 in his Super Namekian form, especially considering how he does not have infinite stamina unlike the androids, is just crazy. But of course, Imperfect Cell soon surpasses Piccolo in strength after absorbing a stupid amount of people. And then you have Vegeta, Trunks, Goku, and Gohan getting stronger than Piccolo. Still, for the longest time, Piccolo's Super Namekian has been both his strongest and his base form. He also gets over twice as strong after the hyperbolic time chamber training in the days leading up to the Cell games. And then, of course, in the 7 years before Majin Buu enters the chat, Piccolo gets even stronger. But here's the thing, unlike the Saiyans, he doesn't really get any clear forms or power-ups. It's just him getting stronger. In fact, so many Dragon Ball fans had simply accepted the idea that Piccolo will never get a new form, he'll just keep getting stronger off-screen. But hey, he does get new forms, and I'd even put some of them over many of the boring Saiyan transformations. But first, before we get to the really good stuff, we're going to take a short trip through Daima to discuss Mini Piccolo. The 8th form is Mini Piccolo. After Goma wishes everyone who fought Majin Buu to turn into children, Piccolo becomes a childlike version of himself, which is kind of weird to be honest, considering his glow-up back at age 3, and it's also a nerf. Basically, for the Daima story to work, Goku, Vegeta, and Piccolo had to become significantly weaker versions of themselves, so they didn't just immediately no-diff the Demon Realm. Mini Piccolo in Daima is still portrayed as a formidable fighter, even in this nerfed version, capable of holding his own against major threats in that arc. While exact power numbers aren't stated in the source material, the narrative and battle scaling imply he's well above typical Z-Fighter baseline characters like Pre-Arc Tien or Krillin, and comparable to other Daima-era combatants. Mini Piccolo's strength should be seen as significant, but not top-tier, able to contest strong villains, but not necessarily on the level of the biggest Apex fighters, unless the plot pushes him there. Alright, finally, let's talk about the latest story arc in Dragon Ball Super, where Piccolo finally finally gets the glow-up he deserved for decades. It's time for Piccolo's 9th form, Ultimate Piccolo. Or if that sounds too Gohan for you, we can just call Piccolo's potential unleashed form his Power Awakening state, which is what it's officially called. And while Gohan got his potential unleashed from Old Kai, Piccolo gets his from Shenron. Or more like he pulls out Shenron and asks him to unlock the deepest levels of his latent potential. And the result is sick. Because unlike Super Namekian, where his design stays the same, the Power Awakening state lights up his skin and makes the black lines on his arms disappear. Plus, his arms go darker, and his belt changes from red to black. So it's basically the first time any Piccolo form actually changes how Piccolo looks. Even the giant forms only increased his size, not his appearance. Of course, the change is still barely noticeable, at least in comparison to the Saiyans who can change their hair or turn monkey mode, or both. You know, I'm looking at you, classic Super Saiyan 4. Basically, since Piccolo as a Namekian doesn't have any hair, he never got to pull off classic Dragon Ball style transformations. But all of that changes with Piccolo's 10th form, his true peak, the Orange Piccolo transformation. You see, when Piccolo asks Shenron to unlock his latent potential, Shenron decides to give him a little bit of a bonus just because, you know, he's chill like that. And this time, it's our Namekian's first literal transformation. He channels his pride as a Namekian, which causes the symbol of Namekian pride to appear on his back. He becomes taller, super jacked, his aura flares, his cheekbones look more pronounced, his jawline becomes more chiseled, and his antennas start sticking up. But the biggest change is that he goes from green to orange. Beast Gohan even compliments him on this by saying that he looks good in orange. And true enough, I mean, he looks badass. This also feels a lot fresher than just switching your hair dye, doesn't it? But more importantly, how strong is Orange Piccolo? Well, this has caused quite a lot of debate in the Dragon Ball fandom, because official sources say that this form gives Piccolo power on par with Goku and the others. But what does that even mean? Is he as strong as Super Saiyan Blue Goku or Ultra Instinct Goku? Is he actually Goku's equal now? I mean, what's going on? Well, the answer here is simpler than you think. You see, just like how it was with Dragon Ball Super Broly movie, the superhero film also took years to produce. And in those years, the power scaling in the manga never stopped. Because of this, there's somewhat of a disconnect between the portrayal of these characters in the movie and in the manga. I mean, that's why Goku never used Ultra Instinct in the Broly movie, even though he had it already. It just wasn't part of the production plan. So the best way to answer the power scaling question is this. Assume that these statements are not meant to be taken literally. Piccolo being on equal footing with Goku and the others is just to say that he's now at a level where he can fight alongside them, which is true. But if we're speaking actual, raw power scaling, Chapter 103 of the Dragon Ball manga showed us Goku versus Beast Gohan, and they were roughly equal. We also know that Orange Piccolo was unable to defeat Cell Max, while Beast Gohan basically one-shot him after awakening the Beast transformation. All of this means that Orange Piccolo still scales below Goku and the others. I'd say we can put him on the same power level as Super Saiyan Blue Goku for now. He does easily beat Gamma 2 after unlocking the Orange transformation, and I know that in both the movie and the manga, Piccolo compares Gamma 2 with Goku and Vegeta. But as I said, Chapter 103 of Dragon Ball Super showed us that Beast Gohan, who is a tier stronger than Cell Max, who is a tier stronger than Orange Piccolo, who's a tier stronger than Gamma 2, was roughly equal to Goku's perfected Ultra Instinct state. He manages to knock Goku out of it by releasing all of his power, but the way the fight is framed makes it clear that they were roughly even. Thanks for watching this video. Make sure you like and subscribe, and click on this video next for more great anime content. Go on, check it out!